So first of all, thank you for choosing us to develop your website. It has been a pleasure doing this website because I've decided to make it really neat, really clean, and really depict the calm nature of the business. So I really hope you enjoy it the same as I have enjoyed doing it. So I'm going to go through all the aspects that I have changed in the website, and also all the features that I have added from the feedback that I received from my first version. So we basically have the two screens side by side. As you can see, this is the original version of the website. So pretty much, and this is the new one, pretty much I've left kind of the same look, but just some bits and pieces that I have added and improved. As you can see, the logo is different. I haven't included this like in the first version. I have only included the logo at the top, and I have changed the top part to include a picture of some tranquil or calm scenery. The menu, I have changed the font and also the background color. Also for the logo, I have changed it. I have kept everything basically the same all the way to the bottom. So this is it. This is the new version of the website. I have developed the animated logo as requested on the home page only. So as you can see, once you go to the home page or click on the home link, the menu, the three rings will appear animated. And after the rings stop doing their thing, the logo text will appear right next to it, fading in slowly. And also have changed the background to a really tranquil scenery. So the menu have changed only the background color, and also the I have made the font uppercase, and I think I have left the same font. I have left the same font. So for this part, everything looks pretty much the same. The counseling will be the first thing that appears, then the financial services, mental health, family life, lifestyle, in appearing one by one. So if you want to add anything more to this each section, you can. There's a lot of space there. And also the bottom includes the calm scenery as for the first version. So let's have a look at the About page. In the About page, I removed the picture that was there, and I just left the text. For the new version, there was a suggestion that the company needed this page to present all of their employees and staff. So I have done just that. Notice that I have only added the avatars. These can be later on replaced by some pictures, images of the employees. And I have just included some random text and random names and positions and descriptions. So this can be filled in at a later stage with your own information, and also have included their email address and some links to their social profiles. And also, if they want to email them, they can click that link, contact. So this is what I have changed for this page. Everything else is pretty much what it was before. So the news page, it is untouched. I haven't really done anything more. So it just stayed the same. And notice that for every page that I have been, the logo appears, the same logo appears. So there's no animation, but it's the same, exactly the same logo as the home page. So everything is the same. So the contact page is the interesting one. It's the one that required the most work to be done. Mostly because a database is needed in different setup as to the other pages. This page is basically just needed a one type of web page, which is the HTML, which is really just about the text and the images, nothing fancy about it, no need to store anything. So even the news page didn't require any storage or of any data. So pretty much home, about, and news was done using HTML code, which is something you don't need to worry about knowing, but just to let you know that these pages are pretty much text and images only. So there's nothing involved. For the contact page, which I will show you in a minute, I wanted to talk to you about the requirements, what really goes on in the background to really get these pages going. There are two things that we need in terms of developing a page that needs storage to be done. So if you recall, our first version of the website had a contact page. So we needed details about the person that wants to get in contact. We needed the details to be entered in these fields because they wanted to find out something in particular about the services or something that of interest to them. So we needed certain information about this client. So we needed the first name, the last name, we needed the email, the phone number, and the description of the inquiry. So basically, this information needs to be stored somewhere so we know, we keep track of the people that are interested in what sort of queries they have about our business or about our services. So we need to store this in some place. So, and also we need to keep track of what queries we have answered and what queries we have not answered. So the request was to save these fields, and we need to have a first name entered. So it is required for a user, for a client to enter this field. So it was compulsory. So the last name, not so much, but the email address was compulsory as well. And there's some format that we need to check as well. So the phone number, we need a phone number to get back to them, because otherwise we don't have any means to get back to them and respond to the inquiry. And the description as well, because we need to find out what sort of things, what sort of concerns they have about our business or services. So these are the required fields that we need to keep somewhere. stored. So the place that we usually store this information it's called a database. So that's the first thing that we need to implement, and that we need that database to hold all of this data, so we can later use it for getting back to these people, or having some kind of indication that this person has been responded to, in their inquiry has been responded to, and so on. So basically we need that database. And also, like I was saying before, the home, the about, the news was about developing one type of web page called the HTML page that was really simple. And now we need another type of web page that is called PHP page, that has a different type of code. And the code is used to display the elements on the page, as well as this code talks to the database and displays the information that is stored in that database. So the contact form PHP file is the one that displays the form on the screen using this code. So displays initially the logo, all the menu links, and then the form with the input codes ready for the user to input the data. And also it has the PHP code to do the validation for the first name, email, phone number, description. So all the fields that the user enters into the text inputs. So it checks for a first name being blank and displays an error message. It checks for the email being blank and also displays for it to be valid in a valid format. Else displays an error message that is not valid or is blank. Then it checks for the phone to be blank and displays an error, and it prompts again. And the phone number, it checks if it's numeric, otherwise it's an error. The description must not be blank also. And then at the end, if all the data is valid, it calls the DB connection for the record to be inserted into the database. Also uses this check input function to check for leading spaces, to check all these characters that might be put into the text inputs. So this is what the contact form PHP file does. So if there has been no errors, so it keeps on trying to prompt the user to get the data right. Otherwise, if all the input fields have the correct data, it calls this other PHP file. So the DB connection PHP file, what it does initially sets the variables needed to make the connection, the username and the password for the database. And it has a flag that tells whether there's been an error or not in the whole transaction. So at the beginning, there is an attempt to make connection to the database. If there is an error, this flag is set to 0. Otherwise, it checks if there has been a table being created or this table exists in the database. So if there is a TS queries table, so this is not the first time that all the queries are being created, it goes on to call records processing PHP, which actually inserts a record. So if there's no TS queries database already in the database, it comes to this part of the code and it creates the database, PS queries, and then it creates the table named queries. And in this queries table, we have an ID field that is the primary key that it uniquely identifies this table. Then we have a first name, last name, email, phone, description, and we have a field sent that is a Boolean that it's either true or false, whether this query has been responded to or not. It's going to be set to false if it hasn't been responded, or true if this user has been responded to. So, and then this bit does all this query string that has been created here. It gets processed in this bit. So if there's been an error in the processing, the message flag is set to null or to 0. And then otherwise, if all of these, the database is ready, the creation has been successful, there is a call to insert the record into the database and exits the whole file. So, and also at this stage, the flag is checked. If there has been an error, a message is displayed on the screen saying to the user that has been an error, and just try again in another time. So that's the DB connection PHP. The actual inserting that record into the database happens in the records processing PHP. There is a variable that holds all the query that inserts that query into the database with the first name, last name, email, phone, description, and the flag that has been sent or not. So initially the flag is set to false because it's a new record. So nothing has been responded to. And then there's an attempt to check on the connection to insert the record. So if it's successful, the message flag is set to 1, otherwise it's set to 0, and then the connection is closed. So, and we display the whole page again with a message that the whole transaction has been successful, with the message flags checked to see if it's 1. And otherwise, if there has been an error in all the transaction, an error message is displayed. So a button at the bottom asking the user to go back to the form and submit the query again. So this is it for the field. So now let's go on to see the front side of things and see what it looks like. So this is the special page, contact page, where your client is gonna come to leave the details. So they might have an inquiry about a service or anything in particular about your website. I'm gonna start off by testing this page. Okay, so 4 out of these 5 fields need to have something in the box. So it says note asterisk denotes required input field. So it means that the person needs to leave their name, the email, the phone number, and the description of the inquiry. So they need to leave something there. So you can contact them back. So they need to have a first name. So if they submit the form at this stage, they're gonna get this back. So first name must not be blank, email must not be blank, phone must not be blank. and the description must not be blank. So they need to put a name in. So that's all good. So they need an address, email address. So the email address needs to be a valid one. So this is going to check on the pages that I have developed. I'm going to have a specific code to check that this email address is valid. Valid means that it has a @ sign. It has something after the @ which can be, I don't know, in this case it's mail. It can be Hotmail, can be Gmail, can be all sorts of things. And then it will check for the dot after that, and then it will check for something after that, which is usually .com or .gov, whatever it is. But it's going to check for that format. So firstly, it's going to check that it's not blank, which already did, and display the appropriate error message. Now it's going to check that the whole thing is valid. So let's say we just put this, just a name. So, and we submit it. So it says, please include an @ like I was saying, in the email address. So we put the @. So let's say we submit it like that. It's going to complain again. Please enter a part following the @. So it needs something after the @. So if you put mail and you submit it, oops, and it still says the email is not valid. So it means that after mail needs a dot and needs something else. So now let's submit it again. So now it's not complaining. Now it's fine. So it does that check. So with the phone number, it already checked that it wasn't blank. So let's just put something, or actually, let's put some letters and submit it. So phone must be numeric only. So it means that it needs just numbers. So let's say that's my phone number. So now it's happy. So the only thing left is the description. So let's say we put something like, I love your services. So as you can see, they have not entered the last name. Let's say I just put something there. Or actually, let's not put anything at this stage, because it'll do nothing basically, because the last name is not required. It doesn't have an asterisk, and I haven't put any requirements for that field. It's completely optional. So if you submit this form now, so it'll take the details, it'll go onto the database, it'll store all this information in the database, and it'll take it or bring it back to the screen with the PHP code. The PHP code is going to grab those details from the database, and it's going to produce, well, I have produced the code to display it back to the screen, which is now, see, I love your services, the same phone number we put in. So it is displaying everything back from the database on your screen. And it is showing a thank you page. Your query was submitted successfully with the details you just entered. We'll get in touch very soon. Thank you for contacting us. So in terms of the database, this is where the database has been installed or kept. So the database name is TS Queries, just Tranquil Services Queries. And just to show you, this is the record that we just saved. So we have a first name, Maria, email, their email, phone number, description, I love your services. And we have an extra field, sent. So sent is gonna have a zero if the query hasn't been responded to, and it's gonna have a 1 once we responded to that query. So at the moment it's just a 0. So it's we haven't got back to this person yet. So once we get back to this Maria, we just put a 1 there. So just to keep track of everything that's going on in this contact form. So, and as you can see, all the information there that has been saved is just displayed there correctly. So I have added a back to contact form button at the bottom. So it takes the client back to the contact form. Okay, so just because in this area, if the transaction has been unsuccessful, there's going to be a message here saying there has been an error. Sorry to submit it again. So that's why I have put the back to contact form so they can go back and easily submit it again. So that's just in case. And also it works with the successful transaction because, they want to go back to the form anyway or anywhere on the website. So I'm going to show you next the error message that you get if the transaction has been unsuccessful. So just to show you what appears on the screen. Okay, so submitting the form, let's say there is an error in the database or we can access it. But there's something going on in the background. So we as a user, you as a business owner, you won't know about these things, but it is important to display an error message so people sort of know what's going on. So if let's say there's an error in the database or something is not functioning well in the database, so if we submit the button, so thank you for getting in contact with us, an error has occurred, and then back to contact form for this person to do it all over again. So for the previous example, I just fiddle something with the login details because there is a password and login username and password for the database to access it. But that's something that I did in the background. So, okay, this time I put an error in the code that inserts a new record in the database. So let's just see what we get if getting in contact with us. An error has occurred, and then go back. So another thing, one last thing I wanted to show you is the ability for this form to clear itself. So if the person puts some information there and then they change their mind and they want to put something else, they have the ability to clear the form. And that's something really handy. So yeah. So I think that's about it of the errors and everything I need to show you. So thank you very much. So one last thing I want to show you that is really interesting to see that everything is working to plan is when we enter a record into the form. Let's say love you is the message. So it's submitted. Okay, it's successful. So we go into the backend records. So we can see the same record that we have inserted into the form, it appears with the set to 0, which is basically false, saying that this record has just been entered in and this query is to be responded to at a later stage. So it has an ID 13 because I have entered other fields before. So it's picking up where the last record was entered. So let's say we want to submit another query. Let's say this user wants to submit something. So query let's say this is what we want to submit. So it's successfully being inserted into the database. So let's check again. So as you can see, there's a second record with the name Jose, Arias, the email, and this same flag set to 0 as well. So let's insert another record just to see. This time something different. Patricia Rivers. Let's say this email address, phone number. Services. So let's submit this again. Successfully being submitted. So let's check again. And it's all there. So the last record that we submitted, Patricia Rivera's, with the email address, the phone number, I love your services. So yeah, I want to show you that it's all working to plan. So thank you very much. And it's all there. So the last record that we submitted, Patricia Rivera's, with the email address, the phone number, I love your services. So yeah, I want to show you that it's all working to plan. So thank you very much.